everyone, welcome to another Underproof workshop. Today's topic is Under the Spotlight. Underproof is a series that we, Happy Mag, do with the Northern Beaches Council. It's a series of workshops aimed at, emerging bands from the area, and, now that we're doing these live on Facebook, obviously anyone is welcome to join, and all of these workshops are leading up to a big gig that we are holding in November, where we're going to give 5 bands with under 500 Facebook likes the chance to play alongside a really big Australian headliner. Last year we had Hockey Dad. This year we have someone special, and we can't wait to tell you all about it. So as I mentioned, today's topic is Under the Spotlight. We're going to be talking about what it means to sort of be the face of your musical project. As much as we'd all love for being a musician to be about playing the music and nothing else, it's actually a lot more these days. You've got to have a profile. You're kind of in the public eye. You've got to talk to media. You've got to get your photo taken. A lot of this stuff can be stressful. So today we're going to talk about a couple of ways to manage that, how to get ready for it, and a few other things as well. Starting with introductions, I'm Tom. I'm the music editor at Happy Mag.
And I'm Claudia. I'm the news editor at Happy Mag.
And we're also going to be joined by Amber Rose, who is a solo artist, a singer-songwriter based on the Northern Beaches. And throughout the whole sort of workshop, we will be answering questions live. So if you have any questions about anything that we've said, just feel free to drop them into the comments below, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So to kick things off, we're just going to go straight to Amber. Like I said, Amber Rose is a solo songwriter. She's based on the Northern Beaches, very familiar with the scene there. Being a solo artist, she's quite in tune to what it means to be on stage and how frightening that can potentially be, and ways that you need to sort of manage that. So, hey Amber, thanks for joining us.
Could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your project?
Hello, my name is Amber Rose, and I am a solo female artist from the Northern Beaches. I have been on this project, Amber Rose, for probably about a year now. I released my first single in October 2019, and since then I've released an EP called Platonic Love, which came out this year. I've just been writing, and hopefully we'll be bringing out some more stuff soon. Just the world's a bit crazy right now, so it's all a bit up in the air, but yeah, definitely looking to bring out some new stuff as soon as possible.
Sweet, we can't wait to hear it.
And when you were starting out as a musician, did you experience any nervousness, and has that changed since then?
Yeah, I was definitely nervous, especially when I first started, because it was all new to me and I didn't really know how to do things the right way, whatever that means, and to make sure that I would be successful. Like I was kind of just in the dark and just hoping for the best. So I was so nervous. I was like, oh, will anyone even listen? I don't know. But it definitely got so much easier because it's not as new anymore, and you kind of know what you're doing and you know what to expect. And the first release is always the scariest because it's the first time you're really showing people who you are and what you do, and you want to do that the right way. But I think if you put too much pressure on it, it's just never gonna happen the way you want it to. Like, you just need to be forgiving with yourself and understand that you're a person and you're just trying your best. So yeah, it definitely gets easier as you learn. But yeah, always gonna have some sort of nervousness in there because it is very scary.
Oh, for sure. It can be really scary no matter how big a name you are. Now, you also have a really strong visual identity. Do you think that's important to being a musician or any other public figure, I guess?
Yeah, it's definitely important to have a strong identity because there are so many people creating really beautiful things, and there's such a large vast expanse of music out there, and you want to create something visual to reflect your sound, and you want to be different from everyone because there's enough people that do the same thing. You don't want to be those people. You want to be something new. You want to be yourself. So yeah, having a strong identity is really important, and it'll also attract the people that you want listening to your music as well.
Do you think performance anxiety is a perfectly normal thing for musicians to experience? And do you have any tips for confronting it?
Yeah, performance anxiety is so common and so valid because, especially if you're a solo artist, you can feel quite alone and vulnerable up on the stage by yourself. Especially if you're singing about something that's really deep for you, and it can be really daunting to stand up on a stage in front of a bunch of strangers and sing about your heart being broken. Like, that's so confronting. So yeah, performance anxiety is something that you really have to come to terms with, but I've been performing like since I was very, very young, and the stage is I just felt the most myself and the happiest. I just love performing so much. So for me, I just get overwhelmed with excitement instead of anxiousness. It is a bit different when you're singing your own stuff though. I do prefer playing in a band because then I have people surrounding me and you can like bounce off them, which is cool. But when you're alone, like, and singing about such personal things, it's really scary, and I just try to look at it as something exciting, and you just feel so elated after a performance. So yeah, I try to focus on that.
Focus on the good stuff. Nice one. Just to wrap up, do you have any advice for any Northern Beaches musicians who are just starting to get off the ground?
My advice would be to just do it. Just put yourself out there, even though it's super, super scary. Like, you just gotta do it. Get it out there. So many people I know are so talented and they're just too afraid. And it's so heartbreaking because I think that everyone's art is beautiful and everyone should have the right to share that. So you've just got to do it for yourself and put yourself out there. Even if you're truly afraid of being judged, you should just try and block all of those thoughts out and just remind yourself that you're doing it for yourself and it's something you created, and even if it's not amazing, you can still be proud of it because you made it.
Nice, just go for it, the 2020 mantra. Thanks so much for joining us, Amber. Have a good one.
Thank you.
So moving on to the first sort of point that we're going to cover a bit more broadly, and that's being yourself. So arguably the most important part of being in the spotlight is being yourself. And that's something you will probably get told a lot, and it can start to feel a bit disingenuous, but it is really important. And it can actually be quite difficult to be yourself when you're getting pulled in a lot of different directions, as a musician often is. So just right now we're going to talk about being yourself on stage, what that means, and how you can sort of harness your look, things like that when you're on the stage to sort of make yourself a bit more confident and be ready in case that something does happen. Maybe you do experience some nervousness, maybe you freeze up even. There are ways past that, and we're going to talk about those. First up, and it's the obvious one, but be rehearsed, right?
Absolutely, yeah. When I was starting out as a solo musician in my late teens, playing gigs, I think I definitely didn't appreciate the importance of that enough, and I'd often rock up under rehearsed and make mistakes, and it turned into this, this cycle of of making mistakes playing live and then losing my confidence. And it wasn't until later playing in bands where we'd rehearse so much that it clicked with me, and I was like, oh yes, practice is a good thing. So definitely practice is your friend.
Yeah, and improvisation is important, it always will be, but you can't really effectively improvise over something if you don't know what's meant to be happening, really. If you being able to drop out of that thing where you're maybe riffing off somebody and just dropping back into the song where you should be able to, again, is only going to work if you have a really intimate understanding of that song and an understanding of the performance. You know, once you've done something hundreds of times, then you can really start to have heaps more fun with it. And, you know, if you do freeze up, or if you do even make a mistake, everybody has made a mistake on stage, then you can jump right back in without really missing a beat again, if you know that song and it's all muscle memory at that point. Second is your image. Being on stage is actually an opportunity to dress up and have a bit of fun with how you look, try something that you maybe wouldn't be able to try out in the street. I think we're both in bands where we project a certain look on a stage. You know, when I get up on stage with my band, we all put on a bolo tie and we all look a bit like cowboys because that suits the vibe of the music. And you know, it might sound stupid, but it does put you in a zone for that performance. Gets you ready to be on stage, gets you ready to be a bit more confident, and sort of brings everyone together as well. Would you say that happens in your current project?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sadly, there's no matching outfits in my project, but yeah, I think everyone to a degree enjoys like getting into some kind of persona that's amplified by the clothes that we wear. I think for me, one of the things I really like, I've got these big boots with like massive chunky heels, and I put them on and I'm quite short, and that just kind of makes me feel taller and a bit more badass and gives me, you know, the right feeling from the ground up. So that's something I like to do. And I think everyone's got their own version of that.
Yeah, definitely. It can be cool to take inspiration from other performers here as well. You might see somebody that you really love wearing a certain thing or looking a certain way or acting a certain way. While it is good to take inspiration from that, I think what's important is making you wearing something and being something that makes you feel good. If it's the you that you want to see on stage in your head, then I think that's really, you can't beat that. And lastly it is really important if you're in a band to look after your bandmates. The best thing about being in a band is when you have a really solid crew around you, you can reassure each other in a way and face everything together. That's really important. Have you ever played in a solo project actually?
Yeah, so like starting out back in the day, I played by myself. And yeah, I probably prefer playing with other people, I'd say. I think playing, I mean, maybe it would be different now, but playing alone, I found quite nerve-wracking. But yeah, both are in different ways.
Yeah, that's not to say you can't surround yourself with a good support team as a solo artist. I think maybe
Absolutely,
it's even more important to have friends or a close network of people who come to your shows, or, you know, a manager or something like that if you are a solo artist, because that feedback can be really important, and that sort of shoulder to have can be really important as a musician. But in a band scenario, again, it's kind of like the practice thing, you know? If you spend that much time with somebody, and if you're rehearsing with the same 3, 4, 5 people for hundreds and hundreds of hours, then they're gonna know you pretty well. That's just what's gonna happen. And they'll be able to see if you're maybe not having the best night on stage. They'll be able to see if you're not really in the zone. And you know, when you're in a group like that, you can all lift each other up in those situations. Has something like that ever happened to you?
I'm sure, like lots of times. Nothing springs to mind, but definitely being in a group, it's kind of like a symbiotic relationship where you all kind of feed off each other and can, help each other up if anyone's not having a great day. And sometimes, you can go on stage feeling not so great and performing the act of like doing this thing either alone or in a group of people can completely change your mood. So yeah.
Actually, I would say, you know, there have been scenarios where, you know, maybe myself or maybe a band member wasn't feeling that great, but I actually think the reverse happens a bit more when one person is really on point and kind of brings everybody up with their energy. I mean, that's a value of a good front woman or a front man who can really bring the energy to a performance, but that can be done by anyone in the band. It doesn't have to be you every night, of course, but something to think about is, you know, being in that situation where you're all feeding off each other and making the performance the best it can be in that way. Great.
Yeah, and I find like just a couple of kind of personal practices that I go through is like, and obviously it's different kind of what, I think it still applies to everyone, but I find I often do it when I'm like, when I'm performing as a front person in a band and I'm singing. I'll really make sure that before I go, if ever I'm feeling nervous, I'll make sure that before I go on stage, I kind of remove myself from the bar or wherever we are, the social area, and I go and just like spend a little bit of time by myself and warm up. That is always so important. And you know, if I'm playing guitar, I'll do the same thing. Warm up and just like spend a bit of time just kind of calming my thoughts, like getting in the zone. And I really think that, that really helps with if you're feeling a bit nervous, just like remembering to take that moment to yourself. And, you know, if you ever, in scenarios, if you ever do make mistakes or like not do something as well as you would have hoped, I think that you need to it's really important to remember that performing and anything you do, photos, all these sorts of things, it's a process that like each time you do it, you learn something and you get a little bit better. And it's like, there's no use looking back on what you've done before. It's all a learning experience. You just got to like remember that each little time you're going to get a little bit better, and I think that's really exciting. But like, don't beat yourself up if ever you do something and you're like, oh damn, later on you realize that it wasn't what you like, you know, you wish you'd done it differently or something. It's always about moving forward and the excitement in learning, I guess.
Yeah, that's a really awesome point. Moving on, if you're just joining us, actually, this is another Underproof workshop. It's something co-presented by Happy Mag and the Northern Beaches Council, an annual workshop series that leads into a gig. The gig is coming up this November. So today we're talking about Under the Spotlight, which is all about being the face of your project, being on stage, being in the public eye, all of these things that come with being a musician. And we are answering questions, so if you've had any questions about anything Claudia, myself, or our guest Amber has said, feel free to drop into the comments and just ask below and we will get back to you. So moving on, we're going to take a bit more of a serious turn here. What if a lot of this stuff is a bit too much? As we've talked about, anxiety is really, really common with performing arts, and not just music. This is talking over any kind of creative art. You're sort of, a lot of the time you're exposing what can be really private thoughts and moments that you've had to yourself and just putting them out basically for everyone to hear. So what happens if the feeling does get a bit too much? Around 45% of people in Australia will experience mental health condition in their lifetime, and in any 1 year, approximately 1 million Australian adults have depression, approximately 2 million have anxiety, and rates are even higher in musicians. Musicians are about 7 times more likely to have thoughts about suicide in the last year in comparison to the general population, and generally a lot of these things weigh heavily on people in the performing arts. So on top of everything that we've been talking about here in terms of looking after yourself, it is extremely important to look after those around you. If you see somebody who is maybe not having a great time or is, down on stage like we've talked about, it's always worth just reaching out and seeing how they're doing, and also being open to the same help for yourself. So there are a couple of resources that are really important for these things. Support Act is an amazing Australian charity, and I believe Australia's only charity who is providing crisis relief to artists, crew, and sort of everybody in the background in the music industry as well. So if you have any injuries that have come from the workplace or mental health issues that have come from the workplace, check out Support Act. They're behind initiatives such as Oz Music T-shirt Day, which we have a lot of fun with every year, and a bunch of other stuff. The other one is Beyond Blue, who provide information and support to everyone in Australia with mental health. So check out Support Act or Beyond Blue if you are feeling down in any of these ways, and because I think a lot of musicians do, and it's something that should be talked about.
I think also making music can be a really amazing, creative and therapeutic way to work through how you're feeling and understand it. So I think that's all the more reason to keep going, keep creating, keep expressing yourself, keep making your art, and never be afraid to say how you feel.
Yeah, no, really good point. Music can be a great way to work through those feelings, but music can also be a great way to talk about happiness, talk about your happy experiences, talk about what it means to be together at a concert, what it means to be together with your friends. So it's not all sad. You can talk about this amazing stuff as well, and a lot of artists do, and that can be a great way to counteract some of these feelings that you might have and that probably every musician has had. So keep at it for sure. And that's actually all we had for today. So thanks for joining us. This has been the Underproof workshop on being under the spotlight. Next week we have another one on Wednesday the 5th of August. It's called Working with Others. And there we're going to be talking about what it means to sort of work with other creatives in the business. And that's everyone from a photographer to a videographer to what you need to know before sitting down in a studio with an engineer or a producer. So that'll be on Wednesday the 5th of August, as I said. There's a Facebook event that we'll link down in the comments below. Thanks for joining us. Like I said, we will be answering any questions that you might have had. We'll check in about 24 hours after the stream as well to see if anyone's had some that they saw after we were live, and that's totally fine. We'll try to get back to you as well. So until next week, thanks for joining us. I'm Tom Cameron.
I'm Claudia Schmidt.
See you later.
Bye.